Welcome to Health Coach for Women. Intentional living for more happiness and fulfillment in your everyday life with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. Join Marsha as she shares her own personal wellness journey, as well as stories from our guests that will enlighten and inspire you to move towards better health and happiness. Now, here's your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker.
Hello, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Health Coach for Women. Today, I'd like to talk to you about inflammation and how it wreaks havoc in our bodies. We can look at high fructose corn syrup as something that is not good for us to consume. So we know that it contributes to hypertension, obesity, leaky gut syndrome, type 2 diabetes, liver disease, as well as cancer, right? And some of the names for those high fructose corn syrups are names such as isoglucose, maize syrup, natural corn syrup, fructose isolate, fructose glucose syrup, fruit lactose, crystalline fructose, and HFCS. I'm sure there's plenty more, but I'm just giving you some, right? Some of those names. Now, we also we know that food preservatives, right? Additives, food additives or preservatives, such as dyes, food coloring, all of those can also play a part in inflammation as well, and as well as allergies, right? As well as causing food allergies. We know that as well. So we need to, again, I talked about being mindful in the foods we eat, and it's difficult, right? Trying to read these food labels and things like that. It's difficult, right? You want to, going food shopping, going out to buy the groceries is bad enough, right? When you're in the stores and it's crowded and you're out on a Saturday morning or whenever you go food shopping, now you have to take the time to read the food labels. But sometimes we have to do what we need to do. So some of the most common food additives are things such as MSG, monosodium glutamate, right? And that's been known to give headaches for some people, causing headaches and things like that. Also, you have sodium nitrate. I talked about the food coloring. You have guar gum, high fructose corn syrup, again, as I mentioned earlier, artificial sweeteners, as well as trans fats, right? And so these are the things that we would need to refrain from and lessen our consumption of in order to combat our inflammation, in order to reduce the inflammation in our bodies. We have to be more aware, more mindful, right? And sugar has so many different names, right? There's also dextrose, maltose, barley malt, fructose sweetener, fruit juice concentrates, brown sugar, honey, invert sugar. Now, there's nothing wrong with honey, right? Pure honey, there's nothing wrong with honey, right? But what it is just the overconsumption of sugars, especially the bad sugars, right? And those food additives that I mentioned earlier that are definitely not good for you, especially when they have been genetically modified, right? So we need to refrain from those sugars as much as possible. You have some people who avoid sugar altogether, right? And only eat it in its natural form, which is if it's in our fruits and vegetables, right? And so you have people who do that as well. We just need to be mindful. The more you know, the better that you can do, right? So when you know better, you do better. So we have to be aware, obtain the knowledge to do the things that we need to do to take control of our health, to take control of our bodies, right? To maintain health and good wellness, right, in our bodies. So we need to do that. So now, when I talked about inflammation, now there's some things that inflammation causes, right? We know that it triggers the production. It causes the trigger an increase in production of cholesterol, right? and how the inflammation can cause cognitive decline, right? We talked about that before in another episode as well, about the pre-onset, pre-dementia, right? And so we need to be mindful of that. And it causes that foggy brain, right? It causes that foggy brain and lack of clarity and focus. Also, CRPs, which is C-reactive protein. It's a protein that's found in high levels of, it's found in the blood, and high levels of it is an indicator of inflammation, right? And so we know that inflammation not only causes aches and pains and stiffness in the joints, it also causes skin issues, right? Such as dermatitis, which is eczema, rosacea, and psoriasis, right? And inflammation also causes digestive issues, right? Things such as irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, and Crohn's disease. Now, anything with the itis, anything that ends in itis is inflammation. So if you didn't know, that's anything that ends in itis is inflammation. So we have to pay attention to these things, and it plays such a part in our health. We sometimes we don't even think about it, right? Because again, we don't stop and look at every food label, right? We read the labels, right? And not that we even understand what it is, right? We don't even know because we can't even pronounce some of the words. Let's just be honest here. But usually the first label, the first ingredient on the label is what it contains the most of, right? So if you see something that says water and then, I don't know, sugar or high fructose corn syrup, that's what it contains mostly of. And so this is how we have these food allergies, leaky gut syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, all of these health issues, all of these things, and obesity, right? And high blood pressure and insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes. It comes from the foods that we eat. It comes from the foods that we eat. So we have to definitely be more mindful, right? And be more mindful of the things that we are consuming. So I want to talk a little bit about serotonin, right? Serotonin is a neurotransmitter, and what it does, it regulates the mood as well as anxiety, sleep, and depression. And did you know that 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut? Yes, 90% of it is produced in the gut. So let's just think about that for a moment. Now, if we have these cells of ours, right, fighting to combat these foreign bodies, right, and these artificial foods and sweeteners, it plays an effect on the production of serotonin, right? It plays a part of it. Think about it for a moment, that it plays a part in regulating sleep, right? And where people aren't able to sleep and they have mood disorders and anxiety and depression. Well, because the body is not producing, or there's some type of block or disconnect where the neurotransmitters aren't connecting as they should, because something is interrupting that pattern. Something is stopping it from producing what it needs to produce. And again, it goes back to our foods. So some of the things that we can do is do as much as possible to refrain from the refined sugars and sugars, as much sugars as possible, right? And we know that it's in everything. Almost over 70% of our food comes from sugar. And again, corn is one of the major, and I have to stress this, corn is one of the major agricultural productions of corn is from genetically modified corn, right? So when we look at all the ingredients, like even just pay attention to the cereal, right? The cereal has high fructose corn syrup, all right? And so it's coming from the food that we eat. We need to avoid it as much as possible. And how we can counteract that is by eating anti-inflammatory foods, such as green leafy vegetables, spinach, kale, collards, olive oil, right? Tomatoes, having tomatoes, I talked about coconut oil already, and then you can have coconut oil. Avoid the sunflower oil and vegetable oil, right? Avoid frying your foods. Try baking your food instead, or boiling or steaming your vegetables, right? I have talked about that and mentioned that before. Those are some of the things that we can do. Nuts and seeds, sunflower seeds, flax seeds are great to have. And omega-3s. Now, I have to talk about omega-3s. Omega-3s causes inflammation as well. So you want to have your omega-6, right, which is found in fish. You want to have your omega-6s, and I talked about, having the good fatty fish such as salmon, tuna, sardines, and mackerel. We want to have those foods. We want to have more fruits and vegetables, right? More citrus fruits and vegetables that we can consume, so that we can fight this inflammation, right? And so that we can reduce the inflammation in our bodies, and the dairy, right? Cheese, right? Staying away from the cheese. Reduce your intake of the red meat, right? Reduce your intake of the red meat. You want to have more. There's other substitutes that you can have. I'm not vegan, but for those who are vegan, they take the plant-based type of omegas or whatever that they need, because they don't consume anything that comes from the animals, so they won't take the fish oil. So there's other things that you can use as a substitute, right? And if you don't want to eat eggs, they have the Just Egg. I've tried it. I've made it before, and it was fine. It tastes good to me. So you have to be willing and be open to try different things, right? Try different foods, try different things that's going to help to improve your health. And dark berries, blueberries, what's the other one? Raspberries, strawberries, rich in vitamin C, and blueberries. These things are full of antioxidants, right? And so, which helps fight cancer, right? Destroy cancer cells and things like that. We want to consume as much as the healthy foods as possible, and healthy fats as possible, and avoid the trans fats. We need to avoid those as much as possible. Look for foods that are organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, right? Because we know that gluten is one of the things that can cause disruption in the body, right? In the digestive system. So probiotics, finding some good probiotics that you can take for a healthy gut, right? Take some healthy probiotics that you can have. They even have probiotic drinks that you can. And again, with those, you do have to pay attention to the label, because a lot of it does contain sugar. Now, the natural sugar that's in the fruits are fine, because fruits does contain sugar, its own natural sugar. But any added sugar you want to stay away from. So search for some antibiotics. That's good antibiotics, that's non-GMO, that's organic, and it may cost you a pretty penny, but to me, I feel it's worth it, right? And so, because again, it's best to take preventive measures as opposed to now taking medicine where you have to try to fight and relieve symptoms, because we know that a lot of the big pharma medicine only masks symptoms, right? And so again, now if you're someone who has inflammation and deal with a lot of chronic inflammation, right, you may get tempted to take things like getting a cortisone shot, right? Taking ibuprofen, But the thing is now, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I have taken it, right? I've had the prednisone shot. Have taken ibuprofen, right? But you want to definitely stay away from these things, from taking them on long term, simply because of this long term side effects that it has, right? The cortisone shots not only causes weight gain, it's and I've taken a shot only once, only once, and now the cortisone shots, right? The prednisone or whatever. Now, when you take those, what it does is actually weakens your body's own natural production and producing the cartilage and the things that we need in our joints to help with our bones, right? It helps to make that for it to grow back. The process is longer. It takes a longer process. And this is what I discovered and was found by my own functional medicine doctor. And that's what they told me. So when she told me that, I knew that I was not getting the steroid shot anymore. Because, I've mentioned it before. Yes, I do have arthritis in the knee. Right. And so for me, I try to avoid the sugars as much as possible. Again, they're in everything. It may not be a totally 100% sugar free, right? Without the sugar. But again, it's monitoring monitoring what we take and put in our body. Now, I mentioned about the fried foods and the alcohol and all those refined sugars. You want to lessen your consumption or as much as possible because of what it does or causing the inflammation, right? And so let's have more whole grain foods, organically produced, non-GMO. And because you have to think about it, something that's foreign to the body and it's not natural in nature. It's not natural in nature. Well, of course, your body is going to respond to this foreign body, to this foreign, particle. Is going to respond. And so it's going to attack. It's going to go ahead and produce those white blood cells to go in and attack this foreign body, right? Which again that's what triggers or causes the inflammation. So you're now you have the pain and the stiffness in the body, right? As well as what it's doing to the brain. As well as we have to think about it, not only with the body. Remember, the mind and the body is not separate, right? They work together as a unit. And so we have to think about that. There's so many different things that's in our food these days. I mean, it's like, what is actually natural, right? What is actually, that's, just whole or organic food. Yeah, they're there, but you just have to search, fresh fruits and vegetables. Fresh fruits and vegetables, preferably organic food. If you can find 100% organic food, that's best. That's really the best way to go. And drinking a lot of water, filtered water if you have a filter, right, to remove the chemicals such as the fluoride and the chlorine, or drinking spring water, which is the best water. Some spring water, drinking as much water as possible. And we still have to move, right? Even if you're suffering from the chronic inflammation, we still can't be stagnant. We do have to move. It's about moving. We still have to move our bodies, even if it's just walking. This is what we need to do, right? And so basically, we have to look at the whole picture, right, of how we are responsible for our own health and wellness. We have to look at the bigger picture and say, okay, so I spend more now so that I can have less health issues later, right? And because as we age, things are not produced as much. Hormones are not produced as much, as everything is less, right? Produced less. And our skin is thinner, making us more fragile. So things like that. So we have to pay attention. We have to be mindful of those things. Some people say, I just want to live for today and not worry about anything, right? No, I get that. I totally get that. But we do now. Everyone has the right to choose. If you choose to just, eat as much junk food as you want, and hey, we all have free will to do what you want. But if you are someone who is just striving to get to optimal health, right? So we have to take control. If you're striving for optimal health, the best health possible, we ourselves have to take the action and to do the things that we need to do for that better health, right? And so that's paying attention to these food labels, finding natural corn, organic corn, cornmeal, organic food products, with less additives and preservatives and food colorings and all these different things that's causing our food allergies and things like that, causing our digestive issues, right? Leaky gut syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, of keeping us bloated with gas and feeling heavy and lethargic and lack of energy, right? And so we need to take control and do what we need to do to improve our health, right? Glucosamine chondroitin, if I'm saying it correctly, excuse me if I'm not saying it correctly, that is something that's supposed to help with you with stiff joints as well, for the inflammation. Now, I forgot to mention, some of the foods that we can take that is excellent for you. Now, I talked about the healthy fruits and vegetables, right? I talked about tomatoes and things like that. But turmeric, right? Turmeric is very good for you, right? Consuming turmeric and at least like 95% curcumin in it. You want something closely as pure in the turmeric as possible. People in India, it's a spice that's people in India have been using for ages, right? And those of you who are from the Caribbean, because the Indians migrated from India to the Caribbean, right? I won't get into a history lesson on that today, but that was one of the spices that in the Caribbean, particularly in what I'm in my case, speaking from my case and my family in Trinidad and Tobago, right, was the turmeric curry, as we know it. We call it curry, and so growing up on curry with my mother cooking curry chicken, curry this, curry that, curry, growing up on curry. Now I can see the benefits, right? I see the benefits and it's been scientifically proven to help with inflammation. So turmeric, if you don't use turmeric in your food, if you're not a fan of curry at all, that's fine. They do have tablets that you can take. You can take turmeric tablets, right? And you again find something that's non-GMO. You want just pure turmeric that's organic, right? And sea moss, sea moss is very good for you. Sea moss. So it's just so many different things that you can take, but when you don't know, you don't know. And so it's our job to know, to find out. It's our job to be aware as a consumer, right? And so let us do that. Let us do what we need to do to improve our health by being more knowledgeable and getting the information, and not just getting the information, because if you have the information and you don't take action, it's worthless, right? And so let's take action by doing the things that we need to do for optimal health, right? If you're not a fan of fish, you don't like fish, again, those omega-6s are great. You want to take some omega-6, and do as much, drink a lot of water, spring water. I'm a big person advocate, I would say, on supplements, right? I think supplements are great, especially for those who don't eat certain foods, and you can find it in those things in the supplements. Again, the same thing when you're looking for supplements, you want to go with things that are gluten-free, of course, organic, 100% organic, and pay attention to the capsules, because some of them are made from either bovine. Now, what I'm noticing is that a lot of the manufacturers now are making more capsules from either rice or some type of vegan capsule, which is great. right? For those who don't consume beef and don't consume pork, because we know that some of the capsules are made from pork. Okay, well, that is all I have for you now for today. I hope that you did find some information here beneficial for you, and I hope that there was some takeaway, that there was something that you have gotten out of this, that you can go now when you go to the grocery store, pick up some flax seeds, pick up some, nuts, some sunflower seeds, some almonds, walnuts, cashews, get some whole fresh fruits and vegetables, add that to your grocery list, and your probiotics, and start doing this now. There's never a time where it's too late. If you ever watched the Netflix documentary on What the Health, if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend you watching that, where you have people who were on so many different medications, and they just did this whole food diet, and they did it for, I forgot how many days they did it for. I don't remember how long that they did it for, but the significant improvement that improved their health, and they were able to get off, many of them, quite a few of them got off of their medications or reduced their amount of medications, right? And now they're able to walk better and they feel better. If you haven't checked out that documentary, or What the Health, on Netflix, you definitely need to check it out. And maybe that will motivate you even more and inspire you to take control of your health, and get better and be better overall. Thank you so much for listening. I will speak to you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening to Health Coach for Women with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Until next time.